Good evening, I'm Adrian, I'm an alcoholic. We were just sitting back there going, man, this is a long-ass meeting. So I'm not going to keep you. It's Monday night, and it's getting close to the holidays, and she all want to get home. And I have a very interesting story anyway, so I will try and keep it short. My sobriety date is October 18th, 1995. I got sober in El Paso, Texas. At the Arid Club. It's still there. They have meetings all day. And if you're ever in El Paso, Texas, it's on the corner of Douglas and Luna in my old neighborhood, Cinco Puntos Barrio, 5 Points Barrio, El Paso, Texas. My grandmother used to live up the street. And when I first got sober, I would walk to meetings because I had wrecked my car. So being an El Paso kid, I grew up, of course, in everybody's Hispanic in El Paso, even the white people. That's how it is there. So, I grew up in that environment, and so everything that we did in the house, it was party. It was, Mijo's 5-year birthday. Yeah, it's time to party. I mean, like really party. And as a child, I learned that as the adults would get drunk, they would forget their drinks, and I could go have some, and they would notice. So I, at a very young age, began to experience the pleasures of the effects of alcohol, beer, and other types of hard liquors. When I was about 10 years old, my family hit some really hard times. We were never a very wealthy family. We were a working class family. And when my dad lost his job, we became very poor. Poverty type of thing, eating out of the food bank and getting government subsidies and stuff like that. And, my father was from upstate New York, so we moved to New York to try and find a more affordable place to live and make a new try at life. My father worked 2 jobs all my life, and my mother worked in a kitchen. And we moved from El Paso, Texas to upstate New York, predominantly, white working class community. They were not used to Hispanic people when we moved there. It was the first time I experienced real racism. I'm talking like this one kid, his dad had a Nazi flag in his living room. In his living room. That's what I'm talking about. And that was wild shit. So it wasn't an easy transition for us, for our family. For me, I became very depressed at a young age. I was just driving over here and I was thinking, I've been going through a rough time lately, and I haven't really thought about drinking in a long time. But it often happens that under periods of stress, I've been sober long enough to be conscious of the fact that under periods of stress, the thought will erupt in my mind. And it's not something that happens intentionally, it's just there. Just sort of, And it's those moments I've learned how to call my sponsor, but I haven't really thought about it too much. I've been thinking more about not, wanting to harm myself type of thing. And I thought about my history concerning that. And when I was young, I was suicidal. I was 12 years old, and we had a side-by-side. Y'all know what that is? It's a 2-barrel shotgun, that side-by-side barrel like that. And they got my dad had the ones with the separate triggers, so you can fire one. Pretty cool gun, if I think about it right now. But I put that in my mouth a couple times as a kid because I didn't really feel like I wanted to be around. But then I had an alcoholic dad, and I discovered that alcohol made me forget about that. It made me not want to kill myself. And I think that at the time I thought, that's great, and I could just do this. And that's kind of how it started for me. Eventually it led to other things. Like I said, I don't have a very interesting story, but I can tell you that it wasn't long before I was showing up to school drunk. I was stealing from my mom, getting in fistfights with my dad. I was getting kicked out of school. I was one of those kids that had a learning disability. Now, it wasn't diagnosed until I moved to upstate New York. Upstate New York has a very robust educational system. They actually care about their students, and they tested me. And they put me in a special ed. And that didn't help my, social prospects very much. It made things even more difficult than they already were as a minority kid and a poor kid and a drunk kid. But it did save my ass later on when they wanted to kick me out of the 9th grade. Instead of sending me to a juvenile detention center, the special ed teacher convinced the state to have me go to an alternative school instead. And I went to this alternative school, and I ended up finishing high school there. I did quit drinking for a period of time in order for that to happen. But then I moved back to El Paso, Texas shortly after, and my life quickly fell apart again. I don't know if you've been to El Paso, Texas. Anybody been to El Paso, Texas? Yeah, okay, so there's a lot of strip clubs and strip malls. They got the buffet at the strip club. I'm not joking, there's like food at the strip club. So, as a young man, moving back to El Paso, Texas, and working in a tool and die shop, and, my best friend lived in San Juan Barrio. We used to drive to work together, and, we'd party together, me and him. Now, our foreman, he was a member of this fellowship. And I'd heard of AA. I saw the movie Clean and Sober. Have you ever seen that? With Michael Keaton. And the whole movie is just his relapse. And at the end of the movie, he goes to a meeting and he stands up and he says, "I'm so-and-so, I'm an alcoholic." That's all I remember. But that's all I knew. That was my only familiarity with Alcoholics Anonymous. And I had a friend of mine that was in school that had gotten sober through AA too. And he used to pick me up when I was drunk. He'd see me wandering the streets. But our foreman back in El Paso, Texas, was a member. And he actually wanted to help my friend out. My friend Margarito Valles. He's still a friend of mine. And what happened is that I got to a place again where I'd said that, alcohol made me forget about killing myself. But after a while, I quit doing that. Like, it quit doing that altogether. Like, it did not solve that problem for me at all. And then I was in a quandary. I was in real bind. So I asked this foreman of ours what he thought, and he said, "Well, I think it'd be a good idea for you to come to a meeting." So he brought me to the Arid Club in 1995, and I was 20 years old, and I remember looking at the coffee-stained carpet. Because I kept my head down, I was just looking at my feet and I'm going, "What the fuck am I doing here? Why am I here?" And but feeling like there was really no other place for me to go. I was living with my grandparents at the time. I had wrecked a vehicle. I was taking the bus. I got fired from that tool and die job, and so this foreman became my first sponsor. And my friend Margarito ended up sleeping with his wife. So I ended up getting a new sponsor after that. And I got sober around people. I got sober around bikers, drug dealers, pimps, cholos, hookers, that sort of thing. One lady was a prostitute. The cops beat her head in. And she would tell this story about when they beat her skull. Like, literally did that. And she was sober. She was glad to be sober, too. I finally got up the courage to ask somebody that I had seen periodically after about 3 months of staying dry and just going to meetings, right? I was able to walk to meetings and make it pretty regularly at the Era Club, and thankfully they had meetings, and it's an insane place. I don't know how I got sober. It's fucking nuts there. AA, I don't know if you know this, but those of you who may not know, AA is an international organization, right? And therefore it should be the same everywhere, but it's not really. You know, I know you guys in West Virginia are probably like, what is going on here? This is not how we do it back home, right? And you're right. But see, the thing is that it somehow worked for me to, begin to do the very minimum things that AA was asking me to do, to come to meetings and pray. And that's what I did. Because I didn't want to kill myself. I didn't want to hurt my grandmother. And I wanted to stop hurting my family. And I wanted to be out of pain in some sort of way. I finally got the courage to ask this person to sponsor me. His name was Rudy Leva. And the people I'm saying, I say their names because a lot of them have passed away. Rudy Leva was this indigenous guy, native guy, a bit long trenza, big long tail, what do you call it? Braid, yeah, one of those. And he had a real fine girlfriend. I said, I want what he has. I want what that guy has right there. So I asked him to sponsor me. Rudy was a long-haul trucker, so he was out of town a lot. So he had me be sponsored by his sponsor, Arla Sheldon. And Arla Sheldon was not somebody I would have picked. And Arla Sheldon took me through the book. And Arla Sheldon told me the truth. And Arla Sheldon taught me how to get sober and stay sober. Arla's had a way of talking to me in the only language that I understood. And he would say, motherfucker, you're a liar, and the first one to believe your lies. He'd point his finger at me at the stub, because he had cut it off in the Navy when he was drinking, so he'd point the stub at me. But then he would say things like, it doesn't have to be this way. It can be different. And he showed me how to do the steps out of the book. And during that year, my grandfather passed away. I was able to take care of my grandmother through that and get through that very tough period. And I started going to indigenous ceremonies with Rudy and community there. And I found spirituality there. And pretty soon I was getting married, and I had 5 or 6 years of sobriety. That's how it kind of happened. I started sponsoring people, and I started to take people through the book like Arla Sheldon took me through the book. And I stayed sober. And as life would have it, things happened, and necessity pushed me to try and seek other avenues of employment. And in 2001, after the 9/11 thing, I was the only person in my family that hadn't served in the military. So I joined the Air Force, and then I moved out here in 2002. And I met Aaron. He's the first person I met. He's the first friend I met. When I came out here, I immediately became hooked up with the community of Alcoholics Anonymous in the area. And I had friends. I had people that, were supporting me through that whole thing. They supported me when I came out here, and they put up with my craziness, and they saw me through my divorce with my ex-wife, and there were people here that supported me when I came back from Iraq in 2005. Arla Sheldon passed away in 2007, but John McGrath became my sponsor when I moved out here. John McGrath passed away in 2012, and he supported me through those tough years as well. There's nothing more important to me than staying sober. It's the most sacred thing in my life. It's the number one thing. I'm not always the most gracious person. Sometimes I'm a real asshole, and I make lots of mistakes. But I think if I stay sober, I have a good chance of learning something and becoming a better person on the other side. At least that's what I've learned through working the steps through these things. I've been through a lot of tough things, and when I use the 12 steps as they're prescribed, I find that there's some important life lessons and growth that I've come to embrace and learn from and become a better person with. I got back from Iraq, and I had a tough time, but shortly after that I met my wife, Sarah. She's also a member of Alcoholics Anonymous. She's going to have 23 years in a couple days. And we got married, and we have children. I've got 2 kids. And, the difficulties don't stop. Life doesn't quit being hard. But I can always feel like I've got a foundation to rely on. And that's something that Arlish always communicated to me, is that you have to build a foundation. He was big into the he was big into the Beatitudes. Familiar with the Beatitudes? Don't build your house upon the sand, build it upon the stone, that type of thing. I'm not a Christian, but that's really good thing, to have that sort of foundation, that principle. And the principles of conduct, the 4 cardinal virtues: prudence, temperance, fortitude, and justice. We have honesty, open-mindedness, and willingness. And these principles are the discipline that AA has given me on how to conduct myself, Well, so when I take inventory, I have something to measure it against, It gives me something to compare it to. It's an empirical process, if you think about it. It really is. I really rely a great deal on the inventory area of the 12 steps, the inventory piece of it, because it's there that I really begin to learn about self-reflection and how to temper my attitude about things and approach things and to treat people in a better way. If I don't do those things, if I continue to behave in a destructive way, chances are that those thoughts about drinking are going to become even stronger and become more convincing. I got 28 years of sobriety this past October. I can't say that I'm a stellar AA. I don't make a ton of meetings these days, and I'm not really sponsoring a bunch of folks. When I've sponsored folks in the past, I've gone from having 1 or 2 to 10, and I can't tell you how many of those folks are still sober. But I can tell you that it's been a pleasure of mine to always interact with people in AA, because, I could tell you all about myself, but the reality is I'm really nobody. I'm just nobody. There's a nobody in this big, giant universe, But y'all are just like me too, We're just trying to do something, to help each other out. And for me, I think that's what the real power is. It's in the power that we find in each other, in the people of Alcoholics Anonymous. They talked about that inverted triangle, and that principle is a real thing. But I do want to say that when I pray, it doesn't always feel like I'm just talking into a void. Okay. For me, it has that sort of transformative element of not just reflection, but of being able to feel like it's going to be okay. You know what I mean? It's going to be okay. And I think that sometimes that's the best thing that I can tell somebody that's having a hard time. Is just tell them it's going to be okay. It's going to be okay. Because it is. And if I stay sober, I know it will. So, like I said, I'm not going to keep you long. It's 8:26. And I really want to let you know that I'm so glad that y'all are here. Because, otherwise I'd be talking to myself. I do that too, but it's not as, and the immediate feedback is necessary. You check me, you keep me real, and I appreciate that. And so with that, I'm just going to
say goodnight. Thanks.